Whenever I plan a strategic session for the company which hires me, and we're sitting behind the table and discussing this, I always have one question for them. Do you have a current strategy which you are using now? And often the response is, yes, of course, we have a very good strategic plan. We have planned all the actions inside and everything. And whenever I hear these two words, strategic and plan, and the word plan in particular, I always offer them to do the one thing. Just take a trash bin and put it in here. And I'm going to tell you why. We live in the world of technology. The birth of the internet changed the way we perceive it. And there's two major shifts which I'm going to introduce you today. One is how we handle information, and the other one is how we perceive the evolution and change. Actually, these two major shifts changed the approach to the status quo. And change is new normal now. When we speak about the status quo, we usually consider something which is predictable and stable. Well, I've got news for you. The only stable and predictable thing here is the change. But let's go deeper into these major shifts and then try to discover them. I sometimes observe my kids. They are typical representatives of the so-called Google generation. And the way they perceive information is totally different from the way my parents do. Actually, just by comparing these two different generations, you can clearly see what the impact of the information availability has made to the world. Moreover, I think that this impact is so big that we need to change the way how we measure timeline, and we need to start measuring before internet and after it. I had an opportunity to analyze several strategies of the companies which were used several decades ago. And the large portion of competitive advantage was the information with the tag confidential. Moreover, an ability to look for the information and collect it was appointed as a strategic advantage. Well, situation is changed. We have so much information buzzing around us through the internet, social media, TV channels, smartphones, etc., etc., etc. Actually, I think that every second a modern man is so overwhelmed with the information flood that he can't actually handle it properly. Let me give you an example. In 2015, May, we had a song contest, Eurovision. This is an event where all the countries present their songs, they got voted, and then the winner is awarded. And it's going every year. So if I would like to find information in just before year 2000, I would probably get the information about this event somewhere in the weekend newspaper, somewhere between page 6 and 8. It will be a small digested information, and I would need to look for it if I want to find it. Well, in 2015, we have a totally different situation. Even I, which is not really keen of following this event, I've been beeped around by all these social news feeds 3 or 4 times a day in this 2-week span while this event was happening. In fact, when I think about that, I probably know about all these participants of this event more than I know about my neighbors, and I've been living in the neighborhood for already 5 years. So, we have so much information, and it's easy and accessible. actually, the figure on the screen clearly indicates the ability of the humans to generate the information. The figure itself differs from the research to the research, and the idea is that over the last decade, this figure was growing exponentially. And the biggest regret here is that with this such tempo of the information growth, we actually lose the quality of it. And it's natural, because to create a new information was never so easy like it is now. In fact, humans are so great at creating new information that they need someone behind them to make this information effective. This is why scientists started to develop different algorithms and automated systems to handle the information they create. And these 3 examples on the screen is just top of the iceberg. This situation is happening all over the world. Let's take a management theory. If I'm not mistaken, this theory exists already for 50 years. But I was really astonished when in some article I read an interesting news that 50,000 different books are issued about this theory every year. Can you imagine 50 different people writing about the same theory which has not changed? The principles are the same. In order to be effective, you need to do the same things, but millions of people are buying these books and reading them. My main message here is that information was never been so available like it is now. So, like students like to say, you can find everything on the internet. And your competitive advantage is not finding the information, but actually how you process it and how you handle it. The other shift which I was wanted to share with you is the perception of change. We all know this phrase about a small step of a man who was a huge step of the humankind. This was when Louis Armstrong landed on the moon for the first time and touched this moon with his feet. I totally agree that this is a very risky and a challenging project, and this was very important as well. But on the other hand, all human history is full of such things and discoveries. The invention of the wheel, the invention of electricity and the light bulb, radio, manufacturing, and so on and so forth. Actually, probably no one will be able to list all these inventions by himself. And there is a reason behind that. And the reason behind that is a new dimension in change. It's acceleration. The access to global information and the fact that we live in the world with the 7 billion people who can exchange information in a matter of seconds has accelerated our evolution. Scientists always argue. Some say that evolution has stopped. Some say that it slowed down. In my opinion, it is accelerating. And because of that, we are losing a track of it. All the discoveries are more noticeable. We are better aware about these discoveries, and the frequency rate has increased. Let me give you an example. Imagine we have a forest with 100 trees. And if you cut one tree out or you plant one tree out, you probably didn't make a noticeable difference. But if you plant 10 trees, probably you will. So you have a forest with 110 trees. And if you want to make the same impact to the forest you have, you need to plant 11 trees. Next time you need to plant 12 trees. next time you need to plant 14 trees. And you can go on and on like this until you reach the point where you need to plant hundreds of trees or even thousands of them to really make the difference. And this also means that 10 trees planted certain time ago had made probably the bigger impact that hundreds of trees will make in 10 or 20 years. The same is with the change. If you're making a change, your next step has to be bigger than the previous one if you want to make it noticeable. And this is why an invention of the wheel at that time probably was had made a bigger impact than our first step on the moon. And our first on the moon now would probably make the bigger difference than our first step in the Mars and sometime in the future. And actually, this is the reason why I threw away this plan. Because plan becomes obsolete before you actually finish it. This is why your behavior and reaction to the situation is far more important than an action plan you try to follow. And the planning has nothing to do with the plan, because planning is more about the process, not the content. So remember, we live in the world where change is new normal. So your ability to read the environment and adapt to it is much more important, is two key elements for the survival and thrive strategy. And here we need to learn from the best. And the picture of bacteria here is not by an accident. These little fellows are so agile and has an extreme ability to adapt that they can survive in an environment where everyone else will simply die. I believe that when we face the end of the world, in 60 years or later, they will still be there. And my message for you to take home is that when you are creating a strategy, concentrate on a proper model development and your behavior planning rather than doing an action plan. If you are following your strategy, concentrate on your feelings and perception rather than KPIs and figures. And if you are using some tools, concentrate on finding new, more effective ways to use them than trying to develop new tools. And to keep it simple, adapt or die. Thank you.